And we're good to go.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much for having me again. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you and share that awesome pizza. No pizza here. But I brought you something else. This time something more down to earth, also in the literal sense, because as year was also related to space exploration. This time it's about web development, and specifically web development with CMS and framework for Orchard Core. So let's uh, let's look into it. Now, first of all, why would you, as a .NET developer, as a .NET web developer, use a CMS, a content management system? I'm pretty sure that most people here have heard of a CMS, but probably not all of you use a CMS or probably use some kind of CMS and thus have a very specific view. But in general, I think it's mostly about not reinventing the wheel. Because for every kind of app, you need a lot of the basic building blocks. You need authentication, for example. You need some kind of content management. Well, CMSs are very good with that, of course. There are all kinds of little building blocks that most of the time you need, and there's really no need to do that yourself. CMSs are also kind of frameworks. So obviously, .NET is a framework. ASP.NET Core is a framework. So why do we need another framework? Well, it's about structuring your application, modularizing your application well. CMSs can offer quite a good guide rail for you. And certainly, it's also about software because again, there's a community around .NET and the ASP.NET Core, but these are large communities. It's great to have such smaller ones, like this meetup group, of course, and because here we have peers that you can talk to in person, who you actually know. It's not just shouting into the void on Stack Overflow. And the CMS can provide you with such a niche community as well, where you can know people, you can quickly collaborate with others also from the other side of the world. Now, why would you use Orchard Core specifically? Well, first of all, this is Orchard Core. I won't read it for you because you can read it faster, but let's dissect what we are talking about. Then we talk about Orchard Core. This is tagline. Well, first of all, it's an open source project. So it's a community-driven project with everything up on GitHub. It's also modular. So while by default, an Orchard Core application is a monolith, although you can also split it up into multiple microservices. But within that monolith, it's well modularized. You can switch things on and off as you wish. You can mix and match what you would like to use from the roughly 200 packages of Orchard Core. You can swap out what's built into Orchard Core with your stuff, so it's highly flexible. It's also multi-tenant, so you can use a single Orchard Core application to host any number of web applications or websites. And the end users will notice nothing strange. For them, they will just look at the website that will seem to be an independent website. Even on the admin area, administrators won't be able to tell, but you who operate that software as a service or otherwise that platform, you will be able to run the whole show from a single application and from a single code base as well, of course. This is very good for site density and for maintaining like dozens of sites. Orchard Core, as mentioned, is CMS, but it's also an application framework, so that point still stands. And of course, it's built on ASP.NET Core. Now, a little bit more detail. The current version of Orchard Core targets .NET 8. And the always target the latest long-term support version of Orchard Core. And if that's not same as the latest version, the latest long-term support version of .NET. And if that's not the same as the absolute latest version, then we also target that. So currently it's .NET 8. Come November with .NET 9, we will target both .NET 8 and .NET 9, and a year later then .NET 10. It's ASP.NET 4 app, but not just that, but when it comes to Orchard Core itself, it's mainly, although now not exclusively, follows the MVC paradigm and does use ASP.NET 4 MVC. In your application, when you consume the packages of Orchard Core, you can use whatever you see fit. As mentioned, it's open source, and it's actually under the umbrella of the .NET Foundation. It's a very active project. It's a niche project, but still a very active one, with thousands of commits, hundreds of contributors, and a lot of issues on GitHub as well. And these are actually getting closed. But we have a lot that would need attention eventually. Not all of these are important, but still the community works towards actually closing them. And by the way, there's also an Orchard Bond.x, which is the old edition of Orchard, because Orchard Core is not where the story started. There was a .NET framework, non-core .NET framework, and non-core ASP.NET MVC version of Orchard, what we currently call Orchard Bond. It was also a very active project, huge code base. It's still supported, it's still active, but currently it's in more of a maintenance mode. The bulk of the community is now focusing on Orchard Core. But perhaps you have seen Orchard Bond applications out there in the wild, and there are quite a few out there, about thousands. And speaking of which, there's quite a bit of history to Orchard Core, because the whole thing started back in 2009 with Orchard Bond, of course. This was when it was first unveiled on Codeplex. Now, if you don't know, Codeplex was Microsoft's GitHub before Microsoft acquired GitHub. And the original Orchard Bond reached Bundle 0 in 2011, and Orchard Core was started back in 2014. But if you may remember, these were the very early days of ASP.NET Core. And the framework was then called .NET Core as well. It was quite unstable between .NET Core 1, 2, 3. A lot of things have changed. It's actually after that, when we were talking about .NET Core 3.1, I believe, that's when we thought that, okay, probably it's a good time to release Bundle 0 of Orchard Core in 2021. Now, why I'm talking to you about Orchard Core is because I've been with it for more than a decade. I started with the community and the project back in 2011. Again, that was the old edition of Orchard. But I've been with the project since then as a core contributor. One of these people who can work in the official repository and who takes part in the life of the community day to day. Not long after me joining the community, we started a company with my business partner called Nomic Technologies. So that's also now more than a decade old. And we have pretty much built our company on top of Orchard. We are exclusively focused on Orchard, and since then we have worked with Fortune 500 companies, like Microsoft or Live Nation, or government organizations like the Smithsonian Institution. Now, why is Orchard Core interesting after all of this for you as a .NET developer? It's important to know that you are not really building an Orchard Core application when you are working with Orchard Core. Rather, you create a standard ASP.NET Core or ASP.NET 4 MVC application, and then you add Orchard to it. So everything you know about ASP.NET Core and especially .NET still applies. all the basic APIs, all the configuration options, all the extensions, but Orchard Core adds a lot of stuff to it. For example, well, it's CMS, so it adds a lot of content management features, which are also very flexible and extensible, what I will show you. It also provides some other features like user management, media management, dimension multi-tenancy, and a lot more that I will also show you in a bit. And what's also interesting, and that's kind of my personal story as well, is that if you join such a large quality open source project, then you can very quickly become a much better developer. If you are earlier in your career, then probably this is the most important point. Otherwise, you can improve professionally a lot still. And of course, as mentioned, there's also a community. This is a picture of our last in-person conference in New York. It has a long period of not having these yearly conferences. We restarted them last year again, also online. This year, it returns to be in person actually, and we are going to Las Vegas with the participants of the community. And a lot of interaction and so on. Let's see it in action. So now I will switch over to Chrome and show you a couple of examples of Orchard sites. Actually, Orchard Core, mostly Orchard Core, but some Orchard Bomb has sites sprinkled in as well. First of all, this is not a very complex site, but it's for a brand that I'm sure you know, Transformers. This is a mini site for a Transformers game. Why it's interesting, apart from Transformers, is that this shows how you can create, in this case, small sites, but also big sites involved with multi-tenancy, because the UK company behind this creates such sites in pretty much a templated way in bulk. But there are, of course, more complex applications built on top of it as well. For example, this one for the Royal Veterinary College in the UK. And while this site has cat pictures and dog pictures, so we can already conclude that it's awesome. But it's not just about websites, but also about more involved applications. Patient.info is yet a website built on Orchard, but what they also did is that they created an application for patient connections, healthcare connections between patients and healthcare professionals, which is more like an app-like web app, which is also built on Orchard. Since I'm not a citizen of the UK, I can't really show it to you, unfortunately, but it's still an interesting use case. Or you can also create something like a booking system for an airline, because this website for Fly Egypt is like that. I mentioned Live Nation, and House of Blues is a brand of Live Nation for event venues and pubs, clubs, stuff like that. And this website here is actually a multi-tenant website with sometimes 50, 60 tenants, I believe, for all of their event venues. And well, all of these event venues also have their own websites, but they are under this collective site too. We work with governments or agencies and government organizations as well, including the city government of the city of Santa Monica. This website of theirs, and not just the website, but pretty much their whole web presence nowadays is built on Orchard Core. I mentioned the Smithsonian. This is one of their websites built on Orchard Core. And actually, an interesting thing here is that they have 3 sites running on Orchard. Now, this one is the latest one. It runs on Orchard Core. But there are two other ones, like this one, which run for Orchard 1. They actually have them migrate the old signs for this one from Orchard 1 to Orchard Core. Hopefully, the other two signs will be migrated as well. But there are also state governments sometimes using Orchard, in this case, Washington State, for their employment security department. The whole thing is Orchard. And if you are interested in more examples, check out our website, showorchard.com. This is run by us. It's also based on Orchard Core, and we keep this as a gallery of Orchard signs that we somehow find as a good example. Well, actually, our own website is here as well, because not too long ago, we recreated our company website because it was an old Orchard Fund website, and now it's a new Orchard Core one. Right. So that's for a couple of examples, but I still just shown what you can do with Orchard, but we haven't really played with Orchard ourselves yet. So that's what I will do now. This time I will switch over to Visual Studio, because what I have prepared here for you is a solution of a web application that uses Orchard Core. Specifically, what we have here is a standard web application that's really just standard ASP.NET Core, except that it includes two packages. The most important being this one here, which is a meta package for pretty much everything in Orchard Core. So I mentioned that Orchard Core is highly modularized. Here though, I'm including everything from Orchard Core just to be able to show it to you. But if you don't need everything from Orchard Core, then you can just include those specific packages that you'll actually utilize. And that way you can cut down on the build time and deployment time, and perhaps have some other performance benefits as well. And in this solution, apart from the web application, I have two projects. One of the projects is a so-called module, and the other one is a so-called theme. You can have extensions, kind of plugins in Orchard Core applications in two ways. You can have modules, or you can have themes. Technically, they are very, very similar. The difference is more conceptual or semantic. Modules are mainly about functionality, providing some additional functionality to your website, extending the built-in functionality of Orchard Core. Themes are more about the look and feel. So usually when you build an application with Orchard Core, you have a custom theme, because you will have some custom styling for your site. Pretty much that's where you keep most of your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and other static assets. Sometimes when you need to do something fancy, it will also have modules. But for now, we'll dig into this a little bit later. For now, I'm just using Ctrl F5 and starting this application. You don't need anything special to utilize Orchard Core. These are just to get packages. If you use Visual Studio or any other .NET IDE, it will just work. And once you launch the application, this is what you will be greeted by, which is Orchard Core's setup screen. As you can see, it's not too complex, but we have a couple of things. So let's explore it. First of all, we need to give our site a name, and I will use the very classic demo. And then we have to select a recipe, and now this is a little bit more complex. A recipe in Orchard Core is basically a JSON file that contains some content and configuration for a Orchard Core site. Now, what this means is that you can use recipes to kind of template sites. You can have a site template or a blog or like a media agency or another company website or a placeholder site that just shows a new website is coming soon here. And furthermore, you can also use these recipes to export content and configuration from one Orchard Core site and import it on another one. Both use cases are very useful. In this case, we'll use the blog recipe to set up a site that contains a simple blog already. Orchard Core, of course, also supports multiple time zones, so you can select your time zone here. This was pre-selected based on my browser. Orchard Core also provides localization options. So for the built-in pieces of UI, there are some localization packages you can use, and your own code and your own content you can localize as well. There are various pieces of functionality in the whole localization infrastructure for that. But for now, I will keep this on English. Then we need to select the database engine because Orchard Core supports multiple database engines. The easiest one to use is actually SQLite because that's a simple flat file. So there's nothing to install, no servers, nothing really. You just use it, and Orchard Core will create the database file in the app data folder. But if you want to do something else, SQL Server, MySQL, and MariaDB did that as well, and Postgres is available too. And of course, the cloud versions of these as well. So SQL Server can be some kind of local or self-managed SQL Server instance, but SQL Azure is also available. For now, let's stick to SQLite because that's very easy. And let me create the default admin user that will be used for the setup and as our first user account. I will use the also very creative password 1 exclamation mark password here. Don't do that at home. Don't do that in production at least. And this was pretty much the setup. A lot longer to talk about it than to actually do it. Now we have a simple blog. It's really a simple blog. The goal here was to provide you with a jump start or an example. And then you can see this blog has some title. There's also a single blog post here that has some file metadata, some tags and categories. You can also open it and see that there's a little bit of content too. And we also have a small menu here, including a link onto some kind of about page here. So, okay, that's simple enough, but let's check out the admin area here. So let's log in with the same admin password, and let's see what we can do in Orchard Core. And well, this is the admin side of Orchard Core. Pretty straightforward to use as well. You can also use it in dark mode, but this probably doesn't look good on the projector, so let me switch back to light. And here in the left-hand menu, we can see a link to our blog right away. And that's indeed where we can edit our blog post. And well, what's more important than content editing in a CMS? So this is what Orchard Core provides, but this is a very small part of what Orchard Core provides. But this is what the blog recipe created by default. And as you can see, blog has title, a link, or URL, and here is its body, its content, and a couple more settings. There's a cool feature down here though. It's called preview or live preview. How it works is that you can open a live preview of this content item in a new tab or window, and when you write anything into the editor, it will be updated right away. So this is something that you can utilize to preview the content changes right there in the context of the front end. And if they are happy with this very sensible edits that I made to this content item, you can also publish it, after which it will be available. Not just as the preview, but also as the published content item with this beautiful new content. Now, you also have the about page here that I've shown you. And so, is there anything? I thought I heard something from you.
Sorry, just coughed.
Okay. Let me know if there are any issues with the screen share or anything. Okay. So there's also this about page, and let's actually compare the two. So how can we edit and publish the about page and the blog post? Because we might explore something interesting. So let me keep this blog post here. This blog post open here, but I will also open the same admin area in a new tab and open this content items menu here to list all the content items in the system. But it's just an example blog post, so there are only 5 content items. But we have some other interesting ones here as well. The about page, for example. The blog itself, because the blog is also a content item, and the blog posts are also content items. But let's focus on this about page here. And if I put them side by side, the editor of the blog post on the left and the editor of the article on the right, you might see that, well, there are a couple of similar things. An article also has a title, just as the blog post. It also has a permalink, just as the blog post, but it has something called an HTML body, not a markdown body, as the blog post does. So there are a couple of similarities, and there's one difference at least, that the body of these pieces of content are somehow different. And actually the difference here is, it's in the name, that you can write blog posts with the markdown templating language. It's very simple. And you can write an article with in a visibility editor with HTML. This is, by the way, the configuration that comes from the blog recipe. In your own applications, you can do whatever you would like. Now, but the more interesting thing here is that, okay, we have 2 pieces of content here. Some things are similar, some things are different. How are these actually built up? There's the blueprint of these content items. Well, let me show you. And let me show you again in a new tab here, the building blocks, or what we call content types. Because what I've shown you until now were specific pieces of content. We call them content items, and they're blueprints, and we call content types. You can think of content types as classes a little bit, and content items as the objects you create and instantiate in those classes. And for example, if we list the content types here, you will find an article, and you can also find a blog post content type here. So let's open the article one here, and this is an article, how article content items are built up. There's some basic configuration here, but the more important here parts, or the more important stuff is down here under parts, because parts are the basic building blocks of content types. So these are pretty much the little things that you can put together to create a flexible content model for yourself. For example, there's a title part, as you can see here, and the title part is what deals with the title functionality. Or there's an author of part here that deals with the permalink. And for blog posts, these are actually exactly the same. So a blog post uses the same title part. It uses the same author of part. And it uses a different body part called Markdown body part. So this is where the flexibility of Orchard's content model comes from. You can take these basic building blocks, the content parts, put them together to create a content type. And then you can create such content items like what we have on the left from these content types. And this you can change. So if I want to add a subtitle to an article, I could just add it on the right. If I want to change articles to store their body content in Markdown as well, I can also change that on the right. And I can do the same thing for blog posts. And I can create new content types as well for whatever specific kinds of content that I want to publish on this website. So content items, content types, content parts are kind of in the center of what we do with content in Orchard Core. But there's a lot more actually. Still talking about content management, there's something called versioning in Orchard Core. Because if we scroll down here, you may notice that previously with the blog post, I used the publish button, but there's also a save draft button here. Now, what does this do? Save draft actually, as you may have guessed, it saves a draft version of the content item, so without publishing it on the front end. But why this is interesting is that it's not just about a single draft that we can create. If I edit the content item and hit publish, and then edit and publish it again, multiple versions will be created in Orchard Core, and those versions, the old ones, will be accessible as well. And to do that, we need to enable another module. If you go to configuration and features here, you will see all the built-in features of Orchard Core that you can separately disable and enable. What's currently enabled, again, comes from the blog recipe, but you can enable and disable everything as you wish. It's a very long list that we have here. Don't worry, it's documented. But what we need right now is a feature called audit trail. And audit trail is it does what's commonly called audit trail. It's an audit log of everything that happens in the application. So if you want to know who changed what in your site, you need audit trail. And in this case, I will show you how to use it to track what kind of content changes happen in the system. So now that I've enabled it, there's this new audit trail menu that doesn't really have anything yet because we just enabled it and nothing changed since then. To make it record events, first we need to configure it and make sure that it actually records every kind of event or content. And secondly, they need to make sure that it records events for our specific content types. So, for example, if I want to record content changes for articles, I need to check that box, that checkbox, and if I want to record blog post changes, then I need to check blog posts here as well and save. And now, let's go back to our article, and let's change something. Let's change the now, and let me publish it, and continue here. And let's change it again. And let's publish now. Okay, so we should have two versions now. Let's check out what happens in the audit trail. And that's in these two versions, what we can see there. First, we have an event recorded about the first change, which was actually the second version of the content item, because one version, the first version was coming from the recipe and was already there. And then we see the third version recorded here. We can also check out the details of this item. We can see that the user who did this change was admin, me. And we can also see when that change happened. And also some kind of some other metadata. But more interestingly, we can also see a deep view of what changed. As you can see here, we can see try again. Here we can see that the display text changed, and here is that again added that I added to the title. So this is pretty much like Git diff or a diff that you can see on GitHub with everything that changed in between two versions of the content item. Now, speaking of changes and who did what, we also have, of course, user management in Orchard Core. Under security, that's already enabled. You can see a list of users in the system. But of course, there's only one user, the admin user created, but you can add more users. And again, Orchard Core is very flexible, and you can mix and match what you need, because by default, coming from the blog recipe, this user store is configured to have local users, but you can add social login, you can add an external user store, you can use GitHub, Twitter, Facebook, Microsoft logins, with work accounts, personal accounts, and whatever else what you like. User accounts also have roles. This one that was created by default has the administrator role, but you can also add and configure other roles. These are the ones coming from the blog recipe, but you can also create new roles, or delete these ones, or change these ones. Because if you edit a role, you see this screen with all the permissions in the system. Because we have some fine-grained access control here, pretty much all the important operations that you can do in the system have permissions. And well, this long list here includes these permissions. And this is also something that you can extend. So in your own modules, you can have your own permissions as well. And there's a lot more in Orchard Core. I mentioned that you can extend Orchard Core with modules, where you can also extend Orchard Core with themes, as I also very briefly mentioned. There are some built-in themes that you can enable or disable here, but you can also create your own. There's also media management in Orchard Core with this feature called the media library, and it works exactly how you would expect. You can upload images here, create folders, do all kinds of file management operations. And of course, you can embed these media files into content items or attach them or show them in the header or whatever else you can imagine. Menus are available as well, and menus are also just content items, like this is the small menu that we have seen. Search and indexing is available too. This is not configured by default for the blog recipe, but you can simply enable indexing with Lucene if you would like to have it in a simple way, or with Elasticsearch if you want to externalize the indexing to another service. And there's a lot more. Again, you can enable these features here. And you can also roll your own. Now, one thing that I would like to show you writing our own code in this application is about theming, because we actually have our theme show up under themes here too. This Orchard Core.demo theme. This is a theme that I have in the solution here. I didn't yet show it to you because we weren't there yet, but this theme project is just a pretty simple project with some metadata file for Orchard Core and a single liquid template file. Now, if you haven't heard of liquid yet, it's a quite simple and safe templating language. It was originally created by Shopify, and you can use liquid templates in Orchard Core to, well, first of all, create themes, and secondly, also on the admin actually, to create dynamic texts, like text that includes the username if you would like to display a notification with the user's name. But this is not the only option. You can also use Razor templates in Orchard Core, and that's my personal preference. But the code generation templates that I used to create this solution created this layout, this liquid file here, so that's what we will use. And this is a very simple HTML document, the basic building block of a theme. That's kind of where the whole thing starts. Now, of course, in a real theme, you would have a lot more files, and also not just templates, but CSS and JavaScript as well. But this is what we get from the code generation template. So let's quickly use this. And first, I will enable our theme and make it the current site theme. So now it is enabled, and now if we check out the front end, we can see that it's very ugly. There's no styling at all. Now there's no styling at all because this is the code. This is all the code in our theme. So this is where we could add our styling. What I won't do now, but just to show you that this is actually working, I will add an infamous hello world message here and refresh on the left, and it works. Beautiful. You may have noticed that I didn't rebuild or do anything. I just refreshed on the left. For templates, this half reload is available for C# changes or for server-side changes. The .NET half reload can be used too. But I don't want to keep you hanging because I'm sure that you like to see some C# code as well, not just some toy code here with a simple template. Now, we don't have enough time to create our own modules in this talk, but I wanted to show you something built into Orchard Core, something that we have seen multiple times today, and that's the title part. So how does actually a part look like? Because I talked about content parts, I talked about content types and content items, and how you can use these content parts to build up any kind of complex content model. But how is actually the sausage made? And that's actually in the Orchard source code. So what I switched over now is the full source code solution of Orchard Core itself. And it's open source, so it's all up on GitHub, and you can clone it and inspect it if you are curious as well. And pretty much all the functionality of Orchard Core is in modules too, modules that you could create as well. And one of those modules is called Orchard Core.title here. And what it includes, among others, is this title part. And that's where the magic happens. Plus the string property. So perhaps a little bit underwhelming, not much, but it's simple as that. When you create a content part, you will always create such a class that derives from the parent class content part. And here you would add properties for pieces of content that you would like to store in your content part. But the title part is very simple. It just stores the title and displays it. So you don't need anything else than a single string property. Now, to be fair, there's a lot more code actually. And one of the pieces of code for title part is this one here. This is the editor template of the title part. You can see that here's an input field, and surrounding it is some code supporting that input field, like here's a label. So this code file here is actually what drives this input field here. You can see the code in its entirety on the right. And what drives the same title part on the front end is a display template called just title part. And well, this is even simpler. We display the title part. So you can also create your own content part. It takes some C# templates, whatever you need for it, and you can get it working. For example, following one of our tutorials, or just by taking a look at the examples, which are numerous in the Orchard Core source code. But that's something I can help you if you send a comment under the meetup, or send me an email, or check out any of the documentation. But for now, let me tell you a couple of other pieces of information about Orchard Core. For example, okay, I have Orchard Core application, great, where can I actually run it to make it available to the world? And it's very simple. Everywhere where .NET runs, Orchard Core also runs, because just as .NET, Orchard Core is also cross-platform. So, for example, you can run it under IaaS, or you can use it in a cloud resource like Azure App Services. But it can also be containerized, so Docker is also available. And if you want to just use Orchard Core, but not quite host it yourself, then you can check out our software as a service called .Nest. It's actually a multi-tenant application, and there you can sign up, and after 2 clicks, have your own Orchard Core site without having to deploy anything. Some starting points that I would recommend, and I will also link these in a comment under the meetup event. OrchardCore.net, that's Orchard Core's homepage. You can also get to the official documentation from there. We at Lombic also have an Orchard Core training/learning website for Orchard Dojo. This I recommend you check out. There we have weekly newsletters and blog posts about what happens in the Orchard Core world, and we also have a tutorial series called Dojo Course 3. So if you would like to learn from tutorial videos, the Dojo Course 3 is for you, because it guides you from the very beginning up until becoming an Orchard Core developer. And if you are a very hardcore developer who likes to learn directly from code, I recommend you check out our training demo module, which is a working Orchard Core module, but it contains more comments than code, because its purpose is to help you become an Orchard Core developer and show all the intricacies of the Orchard Core APIs and extension points. So that was it from me. Thank you very much for having me, and perhaps we can have a little discussion and Q&A now.
Thank you. That was very good. Is there any questions in the room or online?
Okay, so then it seems that everything was clear or everything was unclear.